Today we're going to talk about how do you become an authority in your space, no matter what space you're in, whether you're a speaker, coach, consultant, fitness trainer, real estate agent, no matter what it is you're doing. I'm going to show you guys how to actually become an authority in your space. Obviously, when you're an authority, everything is easier. If you are the guy at the top, if everyone sees you as the authority, everything is just naturally easier. The sales are easier. I mean, everything. You get to charge more, everything. So if you're not actually focused on becoming the authority, then what are you doing? What you doing, man? So let's see who's hopping on real quick and let's get going. Got to follow along with everybody if this thing loads. So let's see what's up, Ricardo. I can't see who else is hopping on. This thing isn't loading. But once again, I just want to talk about today in terms of becoming the authority in your space. If you're not becoming the authority in your space, then it's just going to be harder for you to do what you do. And I remember a while ago, like a long time ago, when I'm just doing the entertainment portion and I'm trying to get hired as an entertainer, right? And people don't know who I am. It's like, I'm like, hey, I'm the greatest mentalist in the world, right? But people don't know that. Nobody knows who I am at the time. And so as I'm trying to get hired, it's just hard. Like no matter whether I'm calling, emailing, the people who would hire me for the most amount and the quickest, it was always the people who had seen me before, the people who knew about me, that basically I had the authority presence with them. And then the people who wouldn't hire me for a dime, those are the people who knew nothing about me. And so if you know how to become the authority in your industry, then everything just becomes easier. And I realized a long time ago, like, hey, the number one thing that my website should do is to actually make myself look like a freaking celebrity. And I had a photographer over at the house. This was back in Colorado Springs. A photographer was over and I was like, all right, we got to take some pictures because I'm going to use these for my website. And I was telling him about this one entertainer's website. I was like, yeah, I want a website where it's going to look like this. I mean, this guy looks like a freaking rock star, right? So I showed him the website. And the first response that this guy had when he saw the magician's website, he was like, damn, like he lives out here. I would have thought he's like doing a big show in Vegas and stuff. And I'm thinking like, man, what the hell? And so that's when like it really hit me in terms of I need to make myself look like a celebrity, because if you look like a celebrity, literally everything is easier. And I mean, it's just whether I realized this when I was trying to get on stages for speaking as well, in terms of just how do I charge more? That was always going through my mind. Like, how do I increase my rates from, at the time it was like $200 for entertainment. I was like, how do I go to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000? And I realized at a certain point, it's no longer about how good your presentation is or how good your product is. It is about who you are. It has nothing to do with your product, nothing to do with what it is you sell. It is who you are. It's the who that's doing the selling. And this is, I mean, you can just take a look at Amazon as a perfect example. I mean, even with me with Amazon, I will first go to Amazon to see if I can buy it there before I go anywhere else to buy it. Because Amazon, they become the authority in the space. And I mean, everything's just easier with Amazon. So you want to make sure that you're focusing on building the authority brand. In the beginning, you are just focusing on sales. Like in the beginning, all you're really doing is just like, I got to sell. But eventually you kind of hit a wall. Eventually you're going to hit this wall and people, for some reason, you're not going to be able to charge as much as you want for your product. People are just going to have all sorts of objections and everything. And if you become the authority, it literally obliterates all this stuff just instantly. I remember watching a guy, he's like one of the top sales trainers, and he was like, all right, everybody, I'm selling tickets to this thing. And just give me a call, or actually post your phone number. I'm going to give you a call, right? And I'm going to close you guys on the phone live. He's doing like a live thing, right? He's like, I'm going to close you guys on the phone. So put in your number and I'm going to call you up and I'm going to close you on this $10,000 ticket, right? And I'm thinking like, okay, let's see how good this sales guy is. He's a sales trainer, right? Let's see how good he is. And so people put in their phone numbers. He called them. He's like, all right, man. So how many tickets do you want to the event, right? And instantly people were just like, I want 2 tickets. And I'm thinking like, huh, that's not really, he didn't really sell anything. He wasn't actually doing any objections. Like he wasn't running through objections, nothing like that. He wasn't really selling. He was literally just doing what anyone could do. He was just saying, how many tickets do you want? And then they just said, oh, I want 2, I want 3, right? But the only reason he was able to do that is because he built a massive brand, like a huge, huge brand in the industry. So by the time he called them, I mean, everyone was like, oh, snaps. And so he just instantly, they already decided to buy, right? That's the power of the authority. That's why you really got to focus on doing that no matter what it is you're selling. I mean, if you're a real estate agent, if you're a fitness trainer, if you're a speaker, coach, consultant, the more of an authority you are, the easier it is to sell, and the higher price you can actually sell whatever it is you're selling. And you just want to understand this, especially like I understood this a long time ago with speaking and entertainment. I realized, I think it was about maybe like the $15,000 mark, especially 20,000 and up. But I think it was maybe $15,000 mark. I realized that it was getting harder to actually get people to pay me $15,000 and up, and especially 20,000, 25,000. It was just getting harder. And I thought about it. I was like, who are the people who are actually paying me 20, 25,000? And I realized the people who would pay me are the people who already knew me, the people who saw me do a presentation. And these were the people who it was really easy to close. They weren't like, oh, why should we pay you 25,000? Oh, we're considering all these other guys. None of that ever happened. They literally just said, okay, cool, bam, here you go. It was just instant, right? And so I thought about it and I was like, okay, well, obviously it's about they're hiring me. It's not about anyone else. They're hiring me. They don't want other speakers, other entertainers. They want me. And so that's why you have to truly realize the power of being the authority. So how do you actually become the authority though? Well, first things first, it starts with a claim, right? You have to actually claim to be an authority. Like literally you say, all right, I'm the authority in real estate. You just claim. I'm the number one real estate agent in the world. You just start out with a claim. I'm the number one fitness trainer in the world. My stuff is badass. You literally start out with a claim. This is one of the things where people can say like, oh, this person's arrogant or whatever like that. It doesn't really matter what they think. It's just a matter of you made a claim. You said, here's what I'm going to be the best at, or here's what I'm the best at. And bam, you start out with a claim. A lot of people are afraid to make this claim because they're afraid of being called arrogant. They're afraid that other people are going to say, oh, you're arrogant. What are you talking about? You're the best in the world, right? And so they're afraid of that. But you got to remember that whole saying of lions never lose sleep over the opinions of sheep. And so you just want to remember that pretty much everybody who calls you arrogant, they're just think of it like this. You'll never see another successful person call you arrogant for you calling yourself great. That it just won't happen, because other successful people, they understand that when you are great, there's a reason behind it. So if you're not great at something, it's just fluff, right? I mean, I guess that's more of the arrogance when you're actually not great at something. But when you are great, you claim to be great. Great people have no problem with you claiming to be great. And this is why, like, one of my favorite quotes is the Marianne Williamson quote. I'm not going to say the whole thing, but there's one little section of the quote that I really want to talk about, where the quote is basically this. So not basically, this is the quote. She says, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that which most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? And that's what I like, the very last part of that. She said, we ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? A lot of times we feel like we can't claim to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous. We can't claim to be the authority in something. Like, we can't claim to be because we're afraid that other people are going to call us arrogant. But in the beginning, or just throughout the entire life, not in the beginning, you need to literally just claim to be this thing. And it's easier said than done, because like I said, a lot of people are afraid of being called arrogant. Like, oh, who are you to say that you're the number one in this space, right? But you just got to remember that quote. It's like when she says, we ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? One of my favorite books, and this was actually recommended by Mark Cuban. This is one of the reasons why I read it, because it's his favorite book, and it became one of my favorite books too. And it's called The Fountainhead. And in the book, it's basically this architect named Howard Rourke. And it's like him against the world, pretty much. And he's trying to build all these buildings, but everyone's trying to say like, oh, these buildings are so crazy. I don't really know. Right. And so it's a really good book. But in the book, there's a section where he's having a conversation, and here's how the conversation goes. They say this to him. They say, do you mean to tell me that you're thinking seriously about building that way when and if you're an architect? And he says, yes. My dear fellow, who will let you? And he says, that's not the point. The point is, who will stop me? And I really like that quote, that section of the book. And I'll read that again. The conversation goes like this. Do you mean to tell me that you're thinking seriously of building that way when and if you're an architect? Yes. My dear fellow, who will let you? That's not the point. The point is, who will stop me? You need to have such a level of confidence that you claim to be the authority. And it's that level of confidence like, hey, man, I claim to be the expert in this. I claim to be the number one person in this. And people are like, oh, who are you to say you're number one? And it's like, who am I not to claim I'm number one, right? You have to operate with that perspective in the very beginning, from the very get-go. Of course, there's going to be a lot of people out there talking trash about you. A lot of people saying, oh, this person doesn't really know. They're not the expert. They're not the authority. Just wait. I mean, they can sit there and talk all they want. Wait a few years and see where they are versus where you are. It starts with that authority mindset of like, hey, I am number one. And so you have to start there, but you have to understand why you're going to be number one if you're not already number one. It's not a matter of you just saying I'm the best. You have to actually be the best, right? So it's like Floyd Mayweather, right? Floyd Mayweather, he claims, he's like, hey man, I'm the best boxer of all time. Like, hands down, better than Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, everybody. And he actually has it to back it up. His record backs it up. He's like, my record is better than every single one of these guys. Like everybody. He's like, I've never lost. I have 50 wins, 0 losses, right? And so he claims to be the best, but he can back it up. He's never lost a single fight. And so on the other hand, imagine if he claimed to be the best. He's like, I'm the best fighter in the world, right? And then he kept losing all the time. Well, now he has nothing to back it up. So now people are going to say, this dummy. So you have to start with the claim, and you have to overcome the imposter syndrome. And I talked about this in a podcast a while ago where the imposter syndrome, it's really huge with a lot of people. A lot of people feel like they're imposters, especially this happens to a lot of smart people. Usually the dummies are the ones who never really feel like an imposter in the beginning. The dummies are just like, all right, I'm great. Let's go do this. A lot of really smart people tend to overthink things. And so when you overthink things, you're like, all right, I'm the number one fitness trainer. I'm the number one real estate agent. I'm the number one coach or whatever. And you start thinking like, well, am I really number one? And you start thinking about all this stuff like, oh, I mean, this guy may be a little bit better. And so you're thinking way, way too much. And you feel like an imposter when you claim to be the authority. And so, the only reason you feel like an imposter is because you're focusing too much on you. You're thinking about, oh, well, what do I know? Who am I to be the person who says all this advice? You're focusing too much on you rather than them. You need to focus on the people that you're actually helping with what it is you're selling. And once you do that, you naturally overcome the imposter syndrome because it's not about you. It's about them. It's about the people that you're trying to help. And this is why it bothers me when people say like, you got to be the expert, like you got to be the number one guy and stuff like that. And you don't really need to be the expert. Like you don't need to be better than everyone else. You simply need to know how to help everyone else be better. That's all you have to really do to be the authority. It has nothing to do with you. Think about it from the standpoint of like basketball, right? So there's Michael Jordan, the best basketball player of all time. And he has his coach, Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson in no way could ever beat Michael Jordan. Like never. Like even Phil Jackson in his prime when he played basketball, he could not touch Michael Jordan. Like absolutely couldn't. But Michael Jordan paid attention to Phil Jackson. Why? Because Phil Jackson made Michael Jordan better. It's not about you. If Phil Jackson would have made it about him, like, oh, damn it, I can't really beat Jordan. Like, who am I to give Jordan advice? This mofo can just run circles around me. Like, who am I to give Jordan advice? If he would have thought of that, he never would have been, I think he won like 11 rings. Phil Jackson has like 11 rings. So if he would have kept thinking like that, he never would have been able to help Jordan become better. Instead, he was simply thinking like, all right, how do I make Jordan the greatest ever? That's what he was thinking about. It wasn't about Phil Jackson. It was about Michael Jordan. And that's how you have to start if you want to become the authority in your space. You have to truly, truly think it, truly believe it. And that's when you start to become it. And so another part of the Fountainhead that I really liked is when it said you have a right to make people conscious of yourself, right? Basically, what he's saying is you have to let people know who the hell you are. So you start out with the claim of, hey, I'm the authority, I'm the expert in this industry, and then you have to have this shameless self-promotion mindset, just, I'm not afraid to promote. If you look at like someone like P.T. Barnum, never afraid to promote. Harry Houdini, never afraid to promote. If you look at all the top people, they're never afraid to promote. They're never afraid to sell. If you are afraid to sell, you simply just won't make any sales. You have to truly believe that what it is you're selling is truly going to help the person you're selling it to. And anyone who doesn't buy from you is literally going to they're going to fail pretty much. You truly have to believe that, because when you believe that, it naturally shows, and you start to operate very differently than everybody else. So to become an authority, it starts with how you think first. Everything starts with how you think first. And so you have to overcome the imposter syndrome. You have to claim to be the authority, claim and believe it. And then you have to have this shameless self-promotion mindset. You literally should not be afraid to promote no matter what. Now, when it comes to being the authority, you got to think along the lines of, this is what I liked about what Gary said, Gary V, where he was talking about, it's not really, you're not just producing content. You can also just talk about the journey. So even if you're not an expert in the thing, let's say you want to be an authority in poker and you're just learning the thing, right? Well, you don't have to be freaking Phil Ivey, like the Michael Jordan of poker. Phil Ivey's like the Michael Jordan of poker. You don't have to be Phil Ivey to actually teach people poker. You simply have to show people your journey of becoming a great poker player. And by doing that, people are going to naturally follow you. And then from there, you'll become great eventually. But you're literally just kind of showing the journey. And eventually you'll become the master. Then you'll really start teaching some really good stuff. But if you feel like you're not really the expert yet, it doesn't matter. You simply show people what it is you're doing to become the expert, to become the authority. The reason people get into trouble is because they claim to be an expert. They claim to know all these things and they can help other people when they can't. That's when they get into trouble. That's when the whole fake it till you make it stuff doesn't work, because you claim you can do something, and then when someone actually comes in, buys from you, and they realize you're not actually helping them, that's when you ruin your brand, you ruin your reputation, because you can't actually do what you claim to do. And this is why it's so obvious to see when people out there say they're coaches and all this stuff, but they haven't really accomplished anything in their life. And you can see the self-doubt as they speak. You can see the self-doubt in everything they do. And so naturally you think like, I don't really want to follow this person and everything like that, right? So it always starts out with understand where you are, and then go maybe a little bit above that. So it's like, let's say you're just starting out. You go a little bit above it, because you got to have that self-belief in yourself. You go a little bit above it, but you don't claim to be the best just yet. You can claim that you're going to be the best. You can claim that. You can easily say, I'm going to be the best poker player of all time. And from there, you can actually become the best poker player of all time, just like what Tom Brady did, right? So Tom Brady, when he actually got drafted into the NFL, he told the owner of the Patriots, he's like, I'm the best decision you ever made. Like he literally told the owner that. He's like, I'm the best decision you ever made. And then he told his friend. So at the time there was another quarterback called Drew Bledsoe, and Drew Bledsoe, he was like John Elway status. The dude was good as all hell. And Drew Bledsoe just signed like a 9-figure deal with the Patriots and stuff. And Tom Brady told his friend, he's like, oh man, just wait, just wait. He's once they put me in, they will never go back to Drew Bledsoe. That's almost like someone saying, you know what? Once Michael Jordan gets hurt and they put me in, they'll never go back to Michael Jordan. That's literally what it was like, right? When Tom Brady said that. Most people, if they heard that, they'd be like, dude, you crazy, man. Talking about once they take Michael Jordan out, you go in, you're going to be better than Jordan. You're funny. So that's how people saw Tom Brady, but that's exactly what happened too. They put Tom Brady in, and then they never went back to Drew Bledsoe. So it's a matter of, you believe in yourself, and then you basically say like, here's kind of the journey that I'm going on. You can claim to be the best as long as you're going to actually be the best, right? So that's how you start. You always want to think in terms of, you got to get good, or you need to be good, and then you need to get better. So this is why if you're stagnant, if you just have the same advice over and over and over again, and it doesn't change, then you're probably going to be outdated, right? And so you have to really look at what's changing and what's staying the same. A lot of things do stay the same. I mean, Just because little things change, like a new social media platform pops up, that doesn't mean marketing has changed. It just means that the way you do it has changed, but the principles are the same. And so you have to sit there and look in terms of what's actually changed and what's really stayed the same. It's really more important to actually look at what's staying the same, because those are the things that people tend to forget, right? And so you really want to make sure that you're not staying stagnant, though, because this is where the innovator's dilemma comes into play. If you haven't read that book, it's a great book, Innovator's Dilemma. This is why companies like Blockbuster just get destroyed. Blockbuster, Sears, Kmart, all these companies just get destroyed because they look at themselves, they're like, hey, we're already pretty damn successful. We're doing billions of dollars. Who's this company, Netflix, talking about people want to watch on their computers and stuff? What? Yeah, right. And so when you become successful, what naturally happens is you want to keep doing the things that make you successful. You just keep doing it and over and over and over again. What you have to do is you do it over and over and over again. But while you're doing that, you have to look to see, well, what's changing? You're like, well, what's changing as I'm doing this over and over and over again? You're just looking over here. You're keeping an eye out. What's changing? What's changing? And that's how you become better. And that's how you naturally become the greatest of all time, right? So I was watching a video with Floyd Mayweather. And Floyd, he was talking about, like, in the beginning, he could do things when he was younger. Like, when he's boxing, he's younger. But he says, I mean, as you grow older, your body changes. And so he started getting injuries. Like, he was just getting injured. Like, his ribs were getting injured and his hands were getting broken and stuff. And so he's like, I was just getting injuries. So he had to change the way he fought. And so he was paying attention to how he needed to change to stay the best. And that's how you have to really think. That's one of the reasons why Walmart is actually that's why Walmart hasn't been destroyed by Amazon yet, because Walmart, they actually paid attention to Amazon a long time ago. And they're thinking of ways to change, and they're constantly changing and stuff. But I still think Amazon's going to destroy Walmart. But still, at least Walmart's not like Kmart, to where Walmart is constantly thinking of, like, how do we change? How do we get better? How do we get better? So those are the first things that you really have to do to become the authority in your space. Then you got to think along the lines of, how do you manage your time to do the most important things at that stage of your business? This is why when people say, like, well, what are you doing in your business? Like, what's your daily routine, right? It's one of the reasons why that question usually doesn't matter to you, because what someone else is doing on a day-to-day basis doesn't really matter to you, because they're at a different stage in their business than you are. If you're just starting, you're going to be doing very different things than if you're running the business. And so you have to think along the lines of, how do I manage my time to make sure I'm doing the right things? You basically want to, I had to burp there. You basically want to think in terms of, how do I make time to dominate the industry? And this is one of the things that a lot of people seem to understand psychologically. They just don't do it in reality. People understand that they need to change what they do to change their life. But for some reason, they wake up the next day, a week later, a month later, and they keep doing the same things over and over and over again. And so you have to think, if you want to dominate an industry, then you have to change your daily activities so it dominates the industry. If you don't change your life simply won't change. This is one of the things where people say, I know that. And I guarantee they wake up tomorrow, the next day, a week later, doing the exact same things. They haven't changed a single aspect of their life. I can't tell you how many times I've told people who want to build their authority business, whether it's like in any industry, I tell people, all right, so start with the website. Like, get the website up, use this theme, and then bam, you instantly have a website up. After that, you want to actually build like this funnel. And I don't go too much, like I don't try to go too far out, because if you give people too much information, then they don't do anything. So I always say, all right, start with the website first. For some reason, people don't do that. Like a month later, I'm like, hey man, where's your website at? Where's your website at? Oh man, I had a job, and I've just been busy with that, and just stuff just coming up, and I just got errands and all that. And I'm like, okay, fine. It's your life. If you don't, in order to change your life, you got to change your life. It's one of the things where it can't be a saying to you. If you want to be the authority, you got to think, how do I dominate an industry? And what are the things, the daily activities that I have to engage in to dominate an industry? I guarantee you they're not the things that you are doing right now. They're not the things you did yesterday, the day before, a week ago, a month ago. They're not those things. You have to be doing different things starting today, tomorrow, the next day, the week later, a month later. You have to be doing different things. You have to learn how to manage your time, right? Now you got to think along the lines of, well, what do authorities do? You want to be the authority in your industry. What do authorities do? This is why I paid so much attention to a lot of the celebrities in any space. Like when I was trying to be when I was getting all the gigs as an entertainer, as a mentalist, I looked at some of the top mentalists. This guy, Darren Brown, and I was on his website. And on his website, this is where I took the idea from. On the website, it actually said, I went to the contact page, and I was just trying to see, like, how did they lay out the contact page? What do they really say? On the contact page, it says something like, for corporate inquiries, contact here. For media inquiries, contact this, right? And I thought, like, damn, this dude is so popular. He literally has to have a separate email just for media inquiries. Like, damn. And that's when it hit me. I was like, oh, I'm putting that on my website. So I literally did that on my website. I put to check Benji's availability, contact here. And I put for media inquiries, contact this email, right? And I did that because I was looking to see, like, how do celebrities position themselves? What are they doing that other people aren't? And so you want to pay attention to what authorities are doing. This is where the whole omnipresence comes into play. Authorities are essentially everywhere, like literally everywhere. The more omnipresent you are, the more of authority you are. And this is why, like, you see all the authorities on TV and everything. In the beginning, it was just TV. If you were on TV, you were an authority because you were everywhere. That's the only place people actually saw, right? They just saw the camera, or they saw their TV, and that's all. It's like, if you're on TV, you're a freaking celebrity. Nowadays, you have to be everywhere. On TV, you got to be everywhere. On the internet, when people go to Facebook, they see you. When they go to YouTube, they see you. They go to Twitter, they see you. They go to any social media platform, they see you. They hop on Tinder, and your thing is there on Tinder too. The more omnipresent you are, the more of an authority you become, because it's just natural in terms of that. That's just how we see authorities, right? And when you think about the omnipresence, you just want to think along the lines of, the more known you are, the easier it is to sell what you sell. That's why you want to be everywhere. And this is one of the things that's easier said than done. Being everywhere, it takes time to be everywhere. And so you can create content and everything like that, but it takes time to be everywhere. If you're going to post on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, let's see, they got rid of Google Plus, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and all the other places, then on your blog, and then all you're going to do ads and everything. If you're going to be everywhere, it's going to take time to post all that stuff. And so that's why in the beginning, it's really hard to be everywhere. So essentially, you have to kind of create this omnipresence slowly. It's like you're creating it slowly. I mean, well, you're trying to go fast, but naturally it's going to happen slowly in the beginning. And so you just got to think in terms of omnipresence. It's really, really important that you think along the lines of building this omnipresence if you're going to build your brand. And think about, what do authorities do? Authorities have repetition. And I'm talking about repetition and consistency for years. And not even for years. I'm talking about for decades. When you hear everyone say you got to be consistent, like create a podcast, you got to be consistent, be consistent, be consistent. It's true, but what does consistent mean? Consistent means decades. It doesn't mean consistent once every week. It means you're going to be doing it for the rest of your damn life. And so that's how authorities are created. You're doing it for the rest of your life. And so you got to think along the lines of repetition, 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 repetition. The more you're seen, the more you're known, the easier it is to sell. So you're thinking along the lines of repetition for the rest of your life. That's how authorities operate. And then you got to think, well, what else do authorities do? Authorities have something to freaking sell. If you're not selling something, you're not going to be an authority, because you're not going to generate revenue to become an authority. You have to have something to sell, whether it's an online program, coaching program, a service, some physical product. You have to have something to sell. And on top of that, you got to think authorities don't just sell, They get results. This is the biggest difference between the authorities that you know and follow and everyone else who claims to be an authority who just sells a product. People who just sell a product, I'm very wary of all these people who sell products with affiliates and everything, because I think to myself, I guarantee you in 5 years you're not going to hear about them. They're going to be nowhere. Their website's going to be a ghost town and everything like that, right? Whereas if you look at someone and you're thinking along the lines of what's this person like really trying to do in the long run? Are they actually trying to get people results? Are they going to be here 5, 10, 20 years from now? That's what you really need to pay attention to. So real authorities get results for people. You got to understand that your reputation is everything if you're an authority. If people aren't using their own name, then you need to be very aware, like very wary of that person as an authority, because if they're not using their own name, when they get called a scam artist, which they eventually probably will, it doesn't really matter to them. And so on the other hand, I mean, if you change it up to like a pseudonym or something, like how Jamie Foxx did, his name was like Eric Bishop, then he changed it to Jamie Foxx. He's still going under the name of Jamie Foxx and he's building that brand, but you just got to be aware of that. You got to understand that reputation is everything. And you want to ask yourself like, well, what do I want to be known for? And when I say that, I don't mean what industry do you want to be in. I mean, what is your reputation? That's what I mean when I say, what do you want to be known for? It's not what industry do I want to be in. It's what do I want my reputation to be? There's a difference between, like, here's the reputation, or here's the industry I'm in versus here's the reputation I have. Big difference. And you need to be on the reputation side. So huge difference between here's the industry I'm in versus here's the reputation I have. You need to think along the lines of here's the reputation I have. Anyone can be in any industry. You can just claim to be in any industry. You know what? Today I'm going to be a fitness trainer. Bam, you can claim to be in that industry. But when you focus on the results for people, you're getting the reputation in that industry. That's how real authorities think and operate. Greatness is determined by reputation. So that's how you have to think as an authority. You just want to ask yourself, like, how good are you really? Right now, maybe you're good, maybe you're great, maybe you suck. But you got to ask yourself, like, how good are you really? And that's why you always have to think in terms of just getting better, just nonstop, no matter what. And your reputation, it's reputation and how good you are. It isn't something that you decide. It's something other people decide. So you can say all you want. I'm the greatest. You can say that all you want. But it's not something you decide. It's something other people have decided for you. It's what other people are saying. Other people are saying like, nah, he really is the greatest. Like that's how you know you have a great reputation. It's like when you say I'm the greatest, that's for you. That's just your self-belief. That's to help you take action towards your goals. But reputation is about what other people have decided about you. When you say I'm the greatest and you have proof to back it up, other people will naturally say, yeah, he is the greatest. Yeah, this person, he gets results. Yeah, freaking Floyd, I mean, he whooped everybody. Didn't lose a single match. Yeah, I mean, you can't argue with that, right? So you got to understand that that's how reputation really works. And so when it comes to being the authority, like I said, you got to make sure you're selling a product. You can't just go out there and say, I'm an authority, I'm going to create content. You can't just do that. You have to actually sell a product, because that's what's going to allow your authority business to grow. That's what's going to allow you to survive in general if you're selling something. And then when you're selling something, you have something to strive for. So you sit there and you say, okay, this month I'm going to do $100,000 this month. Or like in the beginning, you're going to be like, this month I'm going to do $5,000 or something. Or my goal is $10,000 a month or whatever. And so you have something to strive for. It's very tangible to strive for when you focus on sales in the beginning as well. Well, sales in general. You shouldn't just focus on it in the beginning. You should be focused on all the time. But if you're only creating content will naturally lead to demotivation, because not too many people are going to watch your content. You're going to be like, oh, no, I don't have that many Instagram followers. So it will naturally lead to demotivation. If all you're doing is creating content, you need something to sell, something to strive towards, something where you say, okay, yes, I did $10,000 this month. Yes, I did $100,000 this month. You need something to strive for. That is why when you focus on selling something, you have that thing to strive for. And it just allows you to grow. you don't want to truly believe that to spend or to make money, you got to spend money. Because in the beginning, you're doing things even if you don't have money, but you do need to build a bankroll. When you build a bankroll, when you actually do have money to spend, that is how you grow. And that's why you need something to sell. Because imagine you're creating content day in and day out. You have nothing to sell. Imagine your content is the most amazing, mind-blowing thing people have ever heard of. I mean, a whole new level of stuff, right? You have this amazing content, but you have nothing to sell. How in the hell are you going to pay your bills, to have a roof over your head, to freaking eat? How are you going to pay anything in your life? You won't be able to, because you have nothing to sell. And so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go get a job. If you don't already have one, you'll go to get a job, then you'll have to spend more time on that, less time on your content and everything, and you'll naturally get demotivated. So you need something to sell. Authorities have something to sell. So you need something to sell. It doesn't matter what that thing is. That is just what's going to allow you to grow. And you really want to think along the lines of what is the sales process for you selling that product. If you don't have a sales process for selling the product, you're not really going to be an authority. Content, I can't stress this enough. Content is one of the last things you do to be an authority. It's one of the last things to build your personal brand, because like I said, you're going to get demotivated if you're just creating content. You have nothing to sell. So you start out with something to sell. You look at the sales process in terms of how am I actually going to sell this thing, and you focus on that in the beginning. Let's focus on how to sell this thing. Let's get some sales. You're not producing Instagram stories or Instagram pictures or none of that. You're not producing all this content. You can post every now and again, do an Instagram story every now and again, but you're focusing on the sales process. How do I freaking sell? That's what you have to focus on in the beginning. And finally, when you do all that, finally you create content. The very last thing you do is you create content. Content is when you start thinking about, all right, look at all the authorities in any industry. The music industry is actually the perfect industry to look at, because if you look at the people who are the celebrities in the music industry, they all have their own unique style. They all have like their own brand, like 50 Cent, the gangster rapper, right? Beyonce, the strong black woman. Lady Gaga, all the weirdos, right? I don't want to say weirdos, but it's like Lady Gaga is like everyone who's different, right? And so everyone kind of has their own niche, like their own brand within the industry and their own style and everything like that. And that's how you want to think along the lines of when you're building your authority brand. It's like you are going to have your own style when you're building that brand. Are you direct? Are you cool? Are you funny? Are you a great interviewer? Everyone has their own style. Like Joe Rogan, if you look at his podcast, like the number one podcast out there, this guy is very confrontational. Like he's confrontational in a smart way. Like he's not confrontational just to be confrontational. He's confrontational in terms of he's not afraid to ask confrontational questions. Like I just heard a loud noise. I thought someone was jumping off the building or something. He's not confrontational just to be confrontational, but he's not afraid to ask all these confrontational questions. That's his style. And then someone like what's that guy's name? Tom Bailu of Impact Theory. This guy is a great interviewer. Like when he has someone there with him, he's interviewing them. He's a great interviewer. I mean, the guy, he listens to him. He asks smart questions, like really, really detailed, and really you can tell the guy researched the people before he actually asks questions. So he's not asking dumb questions. So he's a great interviewer. And so everybody has their own style. So if you want to be the authority, you have to think, well, what is my style? And the style is usually an exaggerated version of you. That's usually your style. So if you're a goofball, be a goofball on TV. Be a goofball on your podcast. Be a goofball if you're a goofball. If you are direct, be direct. If you're funny, just be funny in general, right? So you got to think like, well, your style is your style, and the way I tell people to do this is think about how are you around your friends? How are you around your friends? That's how you want to be in your videos and like in your content when you're being the authority, is you think, how am I around my friends? And let me exaggerate that a little bit more. And that's what you do. Like all my friends would tell you, I'm insanely sarcastic. I say the most ridiculous things around them. I mean, stuff that I would never actually say on videos because people would naturally misinterpret it. But I say the most ridiculous things around my friends. I'm insanely sarcastic. And so So I do that in the videos as well. You just want to think, how am I around friends? That's how I'm going to be in the videos and podcasts and all that when I'm building the authority brand. If you don't actually know what your style is, that's okay. A lot of people start out not knowing what their style is. All you have to do is just start producing content, and then your style will naturally find itself. That's how you really do it. It's like, if you don't know what your natural style is, just start producing, and then you're gonna get natural at it. You're just gonna be like, all right, here's my style. Bam, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And so that's how you basically become the authority in your industry. I'm not gonna repeat everything I just said, but that's basically how you become the authority in your industry, right? So let's see if there was any questions. So Nick said, for most people, you just have to know more than them to be considered an expert in their minds. Yeah, exactly. So that's like in the Catch Me If You Can movie, the guy Frank Abagnale, he was like an insanely great con artist, like insanely smart. And he actually said that. He was like, look, man, I don't really need to be the best. I just need to know a little bit more than you. And I can't remember what he was teaching. I think he was like a professor. He conned himself into being like a professor somewhere or whatever. And he didn't know anything about the topic, actually. All he did was read one chapter ahead of everybody else, and then he just taught everybody the previous chapter. That's all he did. And so he's like, I don't really need to be the expert in this industry. I just need to know a little bit more than you. And that was his mindset in the whole expert thing. It's actually pretty funny. If you haven't seen the movie, it was actually pretty good. Let's see. Anna said, I think my style and passion is the ability to share inspirational stories. Yeah, so it's not... you don't want to say like, I think my style is this. You want to definitely know what your style is by doing it. And then you're like, okay, this is definitely my style, right? And the only way you're going to really know that is by doing it. So that's a great start in terms of saying, all right, my style is with the inspirational stories. Now you start doing it. And just start doing it, and then it's going to naturally come across, right? All right, cool. So we got the takeaways. All right. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Exactly. Yep. And then you do want to, I mean, despite what the Frank Abagnale guy said, and despite like being one step ahead, you still want to be like 10, 20 steps ahead, because if you're only one step ahead, then the people who are 2 steps ahead of you, they're going to think you're a dummy. They're going to be like, what? This person's calling himself an expert. What? Right? So this is actually one of the reasons why I started the speaker training thing, because I knew I was like a million steps ahead of all these other guys, because I was like, man, the stuff that these guys are teaching is so basic, it's ridiculous. And so I only knew I was way ahead of them because I did more than them. I knew my knowledge didn't come from reading books. It came from actually doing the thing over and over and over again. So there was nothing that they could teach me that I didn't already know. There was nothing they could show me. It's like what Kobe did. When Kobe was on the USA basketball team for the Olympics, and there's all the other guys. There's LeBron, there's Russell Westbrook, all of them, and Kobe's just sitting there by himself. And an interview asked him like, oh, why aren't you hanging out with them? Or like, why aren't you training with them? You think you know everything? And Kobe was like, no, I don't know everything, but I know more than them. And so the only way you're going to know more than the other people is simply by doing more. Kobe, he just knew more than everybody just because he played the game longer than every single one of them. And so that's simply how you want to operate. That's when you really become the expert. But that's how you're going to build the authority brand. In terms of building the authority brand, I think the most important part is to seriously believe you're the authority. Like, to not just say it, not just claim it, but to seriously believe it. And you believe it because it's true, right? You believe it in terms of like, I'm the authority because here's all the hours I put into this thing. That is why I'm the authority. It's one of the reasons why when I came out with the speaker training, the training for entertainers, I knew I was the authority because I put in more hours than everybody else. I'm like I had my 10,000 hours and then some. I'm like, look, I've never had a job in my life. This is literally all I've ever done. So how can I not have actually had more information and more experience than you? And so you have to truly believe it because you know it to be true because of all the things you've done to get there. That's the biggest thing is you got to overcome the imposter syndrome of thinking that you're not the person to be the authority. That's why I like that quote from Marianne Williamson where she says, we ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? That's how you have to think. Like, who are you not to be the authority? All right. Cool. So we are good to go for today. We are going to do the Facebook Live once again tomorrow, Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Remember, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. The only exception is going to be next week. So next week, we're going to be doing this thing for all the members of the group. And so I'm going to focus just on the members next week. So we won't be doing Facebook Live next week, but the week after that, we'll be doing Facebook Live. All right. So Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. I'll see you guys 9 a.m. tomorrow. Take care, everybody.